morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to today's Power Hour presented by Advantage Route Systems. Our hosts this morning will be Kat and David, and they're going to be going over some year-end tips for you guys. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat box. We'll review them and try to answer them throughout the session. Also, please be advised that we are recording this session, so if there's anything that you missed, we'll be sending that out in a link to you early next week. Again, thank you for joining us, and without further ado, I'll turn things over to Kat and David.
Well, hello and welcome, everybody. We always enjoy doing this session near the end of the year. We look back and we did kind of the same thing last year, but there's a few new things that we're adding. Kat and I are going to be kind of addressing this. I think we go to the agenda, next slide. Kat's going to go ahead and introduce the topics, and we're going to team tag this. She's going to take about half the topics, and she left one or two for me, I think. So we'll have fun with this. And once again, I'm going to be when I'm not talking, monitoring the chat area. So if you have a question, either raise your hand with the meetings tool or type something in the chat window, or we're going to keep you muted. So you can't just shout out something. But the whole point is we want your participation. We really do appreciate it when you have questions and comments. It just makes it a lot more enjoyable because probably somebody else has the same thing. So the whole point is, you know, you're certainly welcome to participate. We just want to make sure that this is a good experience for you and that you're able to gain a lot from it. So without any other discussion, we'll go ahead and get started. And here's what we're doing.
Awesome. All right, guys. So again, we're going to go over items that you're going to be doing at the end of your year. As you all know, we are coming up upon December. So there's a couple things you definitely want to run for your businesses just to make sure things are on task. You're aware of what's going on, and a few of the things on our screen right now that we'll be going over is extending your route calendars, running the end of the year sales and tax report, running the end of the year sales detail report, running an aging analysis report, sending bad debt accounts to collections or doing write-offs, clearing out inactive accounts and archiving customers, running a data integrity check, looking at the customer information window regarding the $, and running an asset tax report. So we'll be going over each of these items separately. So if you have any questions or concerns, again, feel free to mark them in the chat. And we'll also have some time at the end of the Power Hour to be open for any other discussions and questions as well. Okay, so first thing we're going to go over is extending out your route calendars. The process I'll be showing you is how to create a backup, which is something we recommend prior to extending your calendars, how to update your holiday calendars and how that affects your day labels, how to extend out your day labels for the following year, the extension time that we recommend you do extend your route calendars, and then also how to actually implement the extension of the route calendars for your customers. So going from that, we are going to jump over into our RMA system. And again, we will be showing you this on the V8 new edition 8.1. So first thing we're going to go over is how to create a backup prior to extending out your route calendars. This can be done by going to File, Backup/Restore, and then Backup Data Files. This is a single user mode function. I'm not going to run it on our end just because we've kind of preset up prior to this Power Hour so we can get through it briefly. But you would set yourself into a single user mode function. Once it's clear for you, you would input your data path of where you want to make sure that backup goes to and let the system run it. And once it completes, you can follow over with the next step. Okay. So after creating your backup, the next thing we need to do is go in and mark holiday calendars. That is found under File, Branch Setup, and then Calendars tab. Now, one thing I do want to mention is if you guys have multiple branches, it is something you'll want to do for each branch. And some customers, you guys may not use your calendars, however, for holidays. However, if you do have your day label set to slide on a holiday or ignore or skip, this function is important because we do want to mark those days so that it properly, moves those stops if needed, or leaves them again. If you have them set to ignore, it's not going to change anything with it. So in order to do so, you're going to click on the holiday calendar. It'll give you a pre-warning just saying it's going to be updating and affecting your day label calendar. hit OK. As you can see, we've already kind of notated some of our holidays in our calendar already, but you'll want to make sure you're on the current year. Any dates that you would like to mark, you'll just click on them and they'll highlight in red. If you need to remove it, feel free to click it again and it'll take it off. And you're just going to go out through the time that you're extending. So we recommend extending your route calendars out 1 full year. Anything longer than that, we don't necessarily recommend, just because when you go to email out your delivery calendars, it can take the system quite a while to process that. So just to avoid kind of delays and hanging, we just recommend the 1 year you extend out. So as you can see, I've kind of marked a couple months throughout my year of 2024. Once that is done, you can go ahead and click the blue check mark to save your changes. And then we're going to go into extending out your day label calendars. So we will click on day label calendar
You have to change the schedule date.
in here.
You did.
No, I'm going to.
Oh,
In this window, what you'll notice is the holidays that I had marked. If I had day labels set to slide, which in this case, mine were all set to slide, you'll notice that those day labels are not showing for the 23rd, 24th. If you don't have them set to slide, they're ignore or skip, you'll still see those day labels land on these holiday dates. Now, what we're going to do is under the schedule end date, we are going to push this out 1 full year. So I'm going to go to the end of 2024. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be the end of December. If you want to give yourselves an extra little month so you're not scrambling at the end of the year, by all means, feel free to do the end of January 2025. Completely up to you guys, but we're going to do the 1 year to December 2024. And what I'm going to do next is hit rebuild day labels. And before I do that, what it's going to do is this blank calendar, it's going to push out all my day labels to fill in the blanks. So rebuild day labels. Once it processes, it'll say the day label calendar has been rebuilt. Just to confirm that that went out properly to the end of 2024, you'll scroll through your months. And as you can see now, all these day labels are listed on my day label calendar. If everything looks good, nothing is missing, I'm good till the end of the date I extended it for. I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. And again, this is pushing out our day labels and our holidays. So if you have multiple branches, you'll want to then go to your next branch and do the same process. Right? Once you've finished pushing out all your day labels and holidays for each branch, the next portion of extending out your route calendars is going to be the actual customers' calendars. And for that, that is a single user mode function. So you want to make sure nobody is in the system during this process. And we will be going into route, utilities, extend route calendars. The first window you'll notice is just going to be a warning stating that what you're about to do is going to permanently change the route calendars for your customers moving forward. So just again, make sure you did your day labels, holidays, you've created a backup before getting to this portion. You have an option to do all your customers, or if you select this, you can input a specific range. If you don't matter for the customer account range, just leave it as all selected. The field to the right, this is more so if you do a lot of, let's say, MDM movements in the system and you don't want to affect anything you've changed in the next month or so. You can actually click on the clear delivery calendars option, and I can just put this, let's say, the end of December. And what it's going to do is it won't affect any kind of delivery orders or any changes you've made in MDN. It's just going to push out your calendars starting January 1st forward, or whatever the date is you have selected. In this case, I don't have any changes I've made, so I'm just going to leave that deselected, and it's just going to extend them out moving forward from today.
and most of the time, that's what we normally do, correct?
Yes, most of the time we won't select this. Again, it's just if you're doing a lot of advanced movements and you don't want nothing, to be affected, it's best to push up then. But most of the time you wouldn't have that selected.
Perfect.
Right, and then we're going to go ahead and hit our blue check mark. It's going to give another warning just saying this is a single user mode function. Let's activate it.
Just to know while we're waiting, it usually takes 20 or 30 seconds. There's a really good document on this. And so Did we send that actually out already this year? Usually we send it to everybody, don't we?
It's gone out earlier in the year. I want to say it was last month, but we'll
Okay.
also send it again after too.
Probably with the power hour,
Mhm.
we'll go ahead and include that. So when you get the notification of the video, you'll also get the instructions, which are, we're really following them very, very closely. So it does work pretty good.
Yes, and it's the same in V7, V8. Nothing much has changed with this process at all. So next up, you'll see that it's going to give us a warning. We're extending out to 12/31/2024. As long as that is accurate, we'll just hit yes to continue. It's going to give you a status bar. This is now generating and pushing out the calendars for all your customers on their route tab. So we're just going to go ahead and give it a little bit to let that process.
And while we're waiting, I'm gonna let you in on a little company secret. We've been doing this way for probably close to our full 30 years since we started. But we're actually working on a way now where we can get rid of the whole extend route calendar routine. And so for those of you that don't do the slide, it's really easy. During month end, we're gonna actually extend them one more month into the future. And you'll have the option of putting in the holidays. But otherwise, this will just kind of magically happen as you close your period each month. And those of you that do use Slide, what it will do is then pop up a calendar and say, these are the holidays you have. Do you want to add more holidays? And it will tell you, we're about to extend during May of 24. You can say, yeah, we need a holiday in there. So we're going to make this so that you just don't have to go through this routine, starting with what we call R4, being March or April.
Yeah, so exciting.
Okay,
stuff.
so we're happy, huh?
Yep, so it's happy, no errors populated. It went through, it'll disable you from single user mode once you're done. And the next thing you kind of want to do, just to confirm everything was processed properly, is checking a few customer accounts. So in order to do that, you'll just go to list customer information. And I'm going to review one of the accounts I know that has an active day label assigned, so I can make sure that they have their calendars extended out. And what we'll do is just go into the customer's route tab. We're going to click on their calendar, and your color coded scheme down here may be a bit different, but I'm looking for all my auto scheduled deliveries, which in this case is going to be blue. And we're just going to go through each month in 2024 to confirm that these items have been marked. As long as these are marked, I would say do about 1 to 3 accounts. You're pretty much in the clear. If you come in here and you notice that these months were not, or these days were not marked in the following months that you extended, more than likely the second half of the extension process didn't go properly. So you may need to rerun it again or contact support if you run into any issues. But if you do see them scheduled, you're good to go. Other than that, you're pretty much done once you've extended out the process and checked your customers' accounts, and they'll be officially scheduled for the following year.
So the point is, you should be doing this like right now, this month, this week, next week. If you've got a quiet day on Friday and a lot of people aren't there, great time to run the calendar extensions. But yeah, like I said, magic, and next year you won't have to do this anymore. So
Yes.
it's kind of fun.
Make it easy for you. All right, so there's no questions regarding the calendar
Nope,
extension.
nothing, no calendars, no questions popped up.
Perfect. We are going to get into our next slide, which is going to go over running the end of the year sales and tax report. So we'll kind of talk about what is the sales and tax report, how do you access it, the from history option and what it will allow you to do, and then the report breakdown showing kind of authorities and how to read the report. All right, so first, the sales and tax report, it is going to be a report, again, that's kind of available for you to review the sales from the invoices for each authority or tax code that you have. Now, this is different from sales detail. It's not going to be a full comparison between the sales that was populated in sales detail. This is mainly just regarding the tax that was reported with those codes. So in order to access this, we're going to get into reports, accounting reports, tax, and sales and tax report.
And we realize some of you actually run this monthly or quarterly if you have a large amount of sales tax. Some of our water customers, though, don't have that much sales tax, so you're only required to run it once a year. So once again, whether it be quarterly or annual, it's still the exact same process to do what you need.
Yeah, and I would like to say, a lot of these reports we go over today, they're great to do monthly or quarterly, like David says, but you definitely want to make sure you do it at the end of the year. But they can also be run at any time if you're doing audits or things like that. And then first up, when we get into our sales and tax report, it's very brief on the criteria fields that you have. However, what you'll notice is it just runs by the sales and tax IDs. If you want to go by a specific date range, though, you can click on the From History option. It's going to open up a date range that you can select in order to view, those specific periods. And you'll get a couple other options down at the bottom as well of what you want to see on here. One of our most popular ones is just a breakdown of authorities to make sure you're paying out the city and all that properly. And if not, it's going to give you a very basic of what each tax code brought in. So I'm going to set just a date range for last month so you guys can get a little preview of what this will show us. And I'm going to hit our little preview. And this report is fairly quick for the most part, but once it comes up, you'll notice as it breaks down into your 4 different taxable categories, you can see what was brought in under sales and the tax that was accumulated for it, as well as the tax rate or percentage along the top here. One of the options I selected was to break it down into the authority. So under here where it says authority, you'll see the specific authority code that I'm looking at. And again, the full sales breakdown for the range that I used in this report. And as you go through, they'll have a couple pages giving you information. There'll be a total as well at the end of the reporting that kind of shows you total sales from here, the total tax that was reported on the invoices that were created within RMA for these different tax codes and authorities. But again, just to reiterate, you don't want to compare the sales totals to the sales detail. They will have different numbers.
Mainly because sales detail does not have sales tax in it.
Exactly, which we will go over, yes.
Right.
But other than that, that's your sales and tax report. Again, great to do monthly, quarterly, definitely at the end of the year. If you guys have any questions regarding this, feel free to let us know.
And likewise, the reason you have the sales tax idea, we realize some of you may be on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin or something, so you need to run it by state. And so that's why you have the range there where you can just do one state at a time or one jurisdiction, et cetera. So depending upon how complex your sales tax is, you may need this broken down into even more areas. So a lot of it has to do with the battles fought and lost and how you set it up. So, the reports are easy. It's just how you set it up. The only other thing I was going to mention too, if you ever do get a sales tax audit, then that next check mark there, show invoice breakdown, can be really useful. Normally we don't suggest you do that. We'll go ahead and run it real quick. But what it's going to do then is show you literally every invoice during that period, that month, and how much tax was collected on each one of those. So if you ever do get audited and they say, okay, we're going to do a sampling for the month of October. We want to see, you said you collected $1,200 for a commercial accounts in Atlanta City, DeKalb County, then you can say, okay, here's all the invoice. And they can either go back to the source document. Sometimes they just look at this and go, okay, and find that adequate. But if you do get audited, it can be really helpful to have that capability.
Perfect. All right, so then we'll go ahead and move into our next category. And that is going to be
Sales detail.
Yeah.
You missed one, didn't you?
I did. Let's go back.
You can just hit the left arrow. No, you can't.
Okay, it's a little out of order, but sales detail is what we're going to go over next. So our sales detail report, we'll discuss what the sales detail report is, how you access it, and how often you should run the report. I'm going to hop into RMA. And again, these reports monthly, quarterly, yearly, but the sales detail report is going to show you posted invoices and the sales for those posted invoices. It's very important too to put that in consideration, because if there's anything that is unposted at the end of the year and you're trying to get a proper sales detail report, you do want to make sure you go in and post all of your transactions before running this report. And in order to access this report, we're going to go into reports, accounting reports, sales, and sales detail. And I'm sure a lot of you have already used this, but this report has a lot of criteria you guys can sort by. Once it does populate, you'll see you've got account number ranges. You can do it by customer types, credit class, major account code. It even goes down to specific charge codes, routes, product classes. But it's a very fun report to play around with. And what you'll want to do is you can pull it for the year, you can pull it for certain quarters or periods. I'm mainly just going to pull it for the period of October. You can go through each one of these functions. It will always default to accept all of the criteria. However, if there's anything you want a specific range for, you can deselect the all option, and it'll allow you to change that from and to range to view what's specific in that range. Just for this, I'm going to leave it with everything accepted. Another thing you can also take into account, option, I don't know necessarily if it gets used very often, but don't include inactive accounts if you don't want to see sales for that for some reason. That is an option here. Other than that, it's going to include any sales that have been posted for both inactive accounts and active accounts for the date range you chose. The next thing I'm going to say that's very important too is you've got 4 different sort options to the left of this window. The order of these sort options can vary and change the report pretty significantly sometimes. So it takes a little bit of playing around with different orders and different criteria to really get what you want. Like I said, there's a lot in this report that you can sort and view. So definitely, seeing which options work best for you is going to be for each company that they'll want to do. Specific just for this report, one of the sort options I found that's been pretty helpful and a lot of customers do like to use is by sorting with the account number, the quantity, and then the sales. And you don't have to fill in every sort option. For this example, I'm going to leave the 4th sort option open. But if you would like to add in an additional one, you can as well. Once I've arranged those, I'm going to go ahead and hit the preview button. And in this report, you can see it has broken down by the account number. It'll show at the top. It'll show a quantity that was used for this specific charge code. And then you'll see your sales percentage. The cost of your goods will be reported in here. Gallons for water companies, which this is a water data set, things like that. So it's got a lot of good details. You can also see the report information criteria that you use at the top. So if you really, like the range or how this is displaying for you, you can keep a copy of the information at the top or save it as a filter as well on the report window so you can use it every time.
How do you do that?
Yep, so let me go ahead and show you. So we'll go ahead and get out of this preview window. If this is a filter that you really enjoy, you like the way it displays all the information, it has everything you need. Once you've filled it all in, you can actually hit the option to save this filter. You can give it a name, hit OK, and then it's going to ask if you want to share this with everybody in the office. If you want any other users to have access to this specific filter, you can click yes. If not, it's going to be specific to that employee's login. All right, I'm just going to hit yes so we can share it with everybody. As you'll notice down in the bottom left corner under my filters, that option now populates for me, sales detail report. And for example, if I were to exit out of this window and go back into the report, it will first populate just the basic default information that RMA has. But if I come down to my filter and I choose that option, it'll now update to all the criteria fields that I had previously. Okay. And then again, just to go back into this report, the final pages of all of our reports typically will give you grand totals. I'm going to skip to our final page so you guys can get a little preview of what that looks like. Down at the bottom, our reporting total for all the criteria that I've used will be notated here, broken down into each individual column. And yeah, so this is pretty much our sales detail report. I definitely recommend doing it at least monthly if possible. just so you can stay on top of your products, making sure that the right, amounts are input, you got your totals, you can kind of see your growth between each month and compare. But again, at the end of the year, it's definitely a big report that you guys will want to see as well, just to compare it again to previous year's sales.
And sometimes it really helps too, if you just want a kind of a summary of all the products, for example, instead of doing sort option by account number, we can do charge code, and then it would lump together. Oops, let me get that one. And then, well, don't do it by quantity.
Oh.
Yeah, take that one off though. Yeah, it gets really ugly.
Do you want to just buy?
Just nothing, none.
Okay.
It's bottom there. Perfect. Yeah, take that one out. Perfect. So here you go. So now you can just look at this and see there's every product and what I sold, even skip reasons are in there. So it kind of gives you a quick summary of all the products in one particular location, like saying if we want to, comparative months, et cetera, that's great. The other one I see a lot of people like to use is do that by route. So if you just want to see what your total sales for a given route's been, and instead of that first option by charge code, just come up there and change that to be route. And then all of a sudden, bingo, you've got 8 or 10 routes. Now you can see what their annual, oh, this is month, I guess, isn't it? So it looks like all the routes did 110,000 and a breakdown by each individual route. So I don't think this is a full month, if I remember right. I think it's only a part of month's data. So anyway, a lot of flexibility here, what you can do. And once you find things you like, save it as a filter so that you can remember a week later when you want to come back in and do it again.
Exactly. All right, so other than that, there's no questions. We'll move into our next topic.
Yeah, I haven't seen any questions yet. Oh,
Good.
there is one.
Oh.
Okay, now is some asked it from Normac Gas. Now, is there a comparison report where it will line up together with the current month versus the previous month on the same report like in QuickBooks? You want to go back and do that as an example? Go slow.
Oh,
Yeah, and you didn't, yeah, you went the wrong one.
I did.
Yeah,
Gotta get the-
Okay.
There's a sales comparison report.
right.
I was a little clicky.
Okay, we got the wrong one. It looks a lot like the sales detail report. It's just slightly different. So it's the second one that you see there, sales comparison report, and basically the same options. You want to do it or you want me to?
I just clicked it. It's taking a minute. There we
Okay.
go.
So as you look in the lower right-hand corner, you can do 3 different date ranges. So for example, if you want to do October versus September, you can do it that way. Or you can do October this year versus October last year, for example. So let's just go ahead and do the example of, okay, so we have October. So then what was in September? We'll do September 1st. Oh, it's already up there. Look at that.
It'll do the last 3, and you also have the option. You don't have to do like 3 different ranges. Right. You can also select none, and it'll go based off the ones that aren't,
Okay.
don't have none.
Let's do that on the product charge sales, just to kind of give an idea just on product charge code.
Okay.
Or route, I don't care, pick one, either one. That's fine. So now if you just want to look at the product comparison from this route, or I'm sorry, by products this month versus last month, poof, here you go. And you'll see that it does show each of the particular dates. It shows you the differences as well as the total sales. So give it a second here. And once again, I don't think this October data is a full month. So as you look, it may seem a little strange there. So as you can see there, those are all skip reasons. Let's get down a little further. Where's a good one? 5-gallon spray. There we go. So this month was 64,000. Last month was 224,000. And then the month before was 265. So definitely August was a little better month than September was. And like I said, don't trust October. I think that's only like a half a month, but this way you can see, and you can see, for example, that you were 19% higher in September or August than you were September. And then this month's obviously way off. So yeah. So anyway, yes, you can do that by using the sales comparison report, which is nearly identical, but you get 3 date ranges.
Any other questions or?
Nope, not right now.
Perfect. Okay, so into our next topic, we are going to go over the aging analysis report. So again, how to run it, what the report will be showing you, and then our recommended balance sort option that's available as well on the report. So going into it, the aging analysis report is going to give you detailed information of your customers' account balances, what they owe during the different periods that they owe you. There's also an asterisk that'll show up on the report for whatever their credit class is set to flag them as like hold service customers and such. Right, and to get into this report, we're going to reports, accounting, customer, and then aging analysis. And for this report, just a pre-warning, if you do have a lot of company data, lots of customers, information, this can take a little bit. For this one, it will take a minute for us to get it to run properly, but as you can see, you will have specific options to filter by within this report. You also get 2 sort options to the left, which again, rearranging this to see how you guys like it best. Play around with it because it can populate differently with each different setup. Some of the things I do recommend doing is under the balance portion. If you don't care so much for, let's say, credits on the account, let's say you want to run this report monthly so that your accounting team can reach out to customers that actually have a balance over $100 or so, then you can deselect the all option. It'll allow you now to modify this range. And I just want to look at customers that have, let's just say, a range of $0 to $100. You can input that in here and the report is going to pull specifically for those customers with those balances. The other thing too below it is going to be the different periods, well, ranges that it falls under. So your buckets, your aging buckets. If you just want to see anybody that's current, you can deselect these options. For me specifically, I'm going to leave them all so we can see how the breakdown looks in the reporting, but you can choose what you want to show within that report. The next important field is going over the period. It will always give you the option for the current month. If not, it'll have just pre-created months within RMA. This report will not allow you to do like a specific date range, let's say of the 1st to the 15th. It's just going to give you the current month up until the current date and then prior periods as well. Another fun option that a lot of customers like to use in here is excluding 0 balance customers. So again, if you want to give this report to your accounting staff so they can touch base with customers that have a higher balance due, and you don't want the report being so long, you can actually choose the option to exclude them and it will remove them from here. It will give you a fair warning if you are trying to compare this to a Business Pulse report, it may differ from the Business Pulse. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and run this criteria so you guys can get a preview of what this looks like. And again, within this report, it's going to probably take us a minute for it to populate, but you can save your filters in here as well. So if you ever find something that you want to come back to with this criteria, feel free to save it. You've got options to do summaries only. So if you don't necessarily want the account breakdown, just in general, how much do customers owe you? There's an option at the top here to choose. You can also go specifically based off of who's been sent to the hold service or the credit classes and forced hold service as well. And just as it's running again, if you guys have, I know, I'm like, it's gonna take a minute.
There's nobody's popping up with questions, but
there's one thing I did want to mention that came up kind of. If you guys are deselecting some of these aging buckets, you might notice on the report that some of the customers may fall along, let's say I only chose 30 and 90, but they also had something in the 60 column, which again, you'll see on the report coming up. It will still pull that information. Strictly just being because it's trying to catch anybody with a 30 and a 90-day balance under those columns, but they're also wanting to show you what other columns they have a balance in as well. So I just don't want that to confuse you guys. If you do deselect it, it means it's not going to show anything for that column. If they fall under both categories and have something in that column, it will also show information.
Okay, there actually is a question here, so let me go through that while we're waiting. When I pull the report, it only shows current, even though I have selected all. This does not match what I have in QuickBooks. Do you have to know what caused that? When I pull the report, it only shows current.
So you,
Oh, with docking, do we not show full aging? Is there something special with that?
if docking, it might only show the current. We might want to check your build though. So if you'd like to leave the build you're on and
It's Normat Gas, maybe
Normat.
follow up with me.
is it
Yeah, I
Cameron?
think there is something there. Depending on how you sync your invoices, it may only have a current balance. The obvious thing is we expect you to go into QuickBooks and should balance the totals. And then in QuickBooks, you would have the proper aging. And of course, there's aging analysis reports there as well. I think we're primarily gearing this towards customers that are using the full accounts receivable, not the docking, but we'll double check and make sure. I think there is a couple of options. You have to choose properly to bring
Yeah.
it aged out.
Docking can get a little touchy with certain reports and within RMA, just because again, you have the outside accounting software. But we'll double check with this and then we'll follow up with you after.
Okay.
Okay, now that it's populated though, as you can see, again, we have our criteria we use at the top. Down here, you'll notice in the breakdown, it will give you the account numbers. It'll also notate the customer name. You'll get phone number information. Again, if you're wanting to print this out, it'll be easy for your office staff just to pull that phone number to call the customer from. It will show their credit class, what they are currently assigned to, their last transaction and their last payment. And then you will get the breakdowns of those different aging buckets that you chose. So any of these breakdowns, again, you'll notice under the current, this account here, they have a current open amount for $27.98. 30 on their 30-day mark, they had a credit, and all the credits will show with a negative. And yeah, it'll just kind of show you your breakdown here as it goes along. What you'll notice is the asterisk, and again, that goes based off of your credit class for the, let's say at 30 days, or actually it looks like 60 days, it's stating that these accounts are marked with a credit class that states at 60 days they are past due. So if they have this in here, you'll notice where that asterisk falls for their past due on their credit class. The other, let's see. At the end of the report, you'll also get, again, your totals for each different aging bucket, what's owed to you. And then it also has just more of a breakdown on the balances and everything else, percentages wise, for each one as well that you can view. Now these bold, I am not reading.
Bold means they're past due.
Okay, so bold is when they are getting marked as past due and they've been flagged, no, they've been assigned past due in the account?
No, it just means depending on the credit class, like pick one example. How about Joy Wilson there near the bottom?
Okay.
That particular customer happens to be in credit class M. Whoops.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you just stay on the report. Okay, so anyway, the whole point, and we'll get back to it here in half a second, but the point is, if it's bold, they are indeed past due. Now, sometimes you look there and you go, well, hold on, they have a current balance. Yes, but they do have at least one invoice that is in the category of past due. Now, how do we know they're past due? Well, we'll come back and look at it here in half a second. Is this one that takes?
I was gonna say it's gonna take a minute to bring
Okay.
up, but most of the stuff was, for the most part covered. You'll get your aging buckets that break down. It'll show you the totals that were due in each one of those terms. And then at the end of the report too, it'll also have a total amount due that's open on that account.
Right.
And there's, I can't cancel this. I'm gonna have to run it again.
Why? Didn't there?
No, there's that
That's fine.
sort option.
It should work. What's wrong?
So there's a sort option I was wanting to show you guys,
Oh.
which once it runs through, I won't populate the report, but I'll show you what the is. But there's an option at the bottom that says balance from high to low. And what that's going to do is push all of your accounts in order from who owes you the most to the top of the report to who owes you the least at the bottom. And that's a great sorting tool to use. Just again, if you're calling your customers, you want to get to the person that owes you $10,000 for the month, they'll populate at the top of that list. So they're one of the first ones that you do contact. And then other than that, again, this is a report that's really good to be running monthly. If you want to do weekly, that's perfectly fine as well. You can run it at any time, but just to kind of stay on top of your customers, making sure you're collecting payments, or if there's kind of any issues going on to where you don't want customers to no longer receive deliveries and they should be on a hold, you can review that with this report and decide kind of if you want to place them on a hold, or, you know, if you're going to try and work with them, collect payments, whatever the case.
Yeah, we find with as many different companies, there's that many options of what people want to do with it, so.
Yeah. You got your choices.
Okay. So we committed to this for the next 20 minutes
I
or?
can't abort. You want me to kill Army? I'll have to abort the whole thing.
No, let's wait a second, I guess.
Okay.
We're just down to 20 minutes. We got a lot to cover still.
Okay. Well, once this is running, I'm just gonna cancel it real quick, show you that sort option, and then we'll get into our next topic. I'm gonna actually hand that off to David, and he'll be going over the bad debt accounts for collection, sending them to collections, and then doing write-offs for those accounts as well. So just give us a moment to get reorganized and he'll
I'll
take over.
just go ahead and get started.
Okay.
If you want to cancel, that's fine. Yeah, what I find, I'm out in the field quite a bit and get to work with many of you, and it's always an enriching experience. And one thing I kind of see a lack of consistent, let's see, oh, we got it now?
Now we got it. So let me get it out. Sorry, real quick. This was the balance high to low option you guys can use. So it is there, but moving on.
Okay, but you know, a lot of you throughout the year have accounts that you know moved 8 states away or are never going to pay their bill, or they won't pay their bill till they try to apply for a new credit card or something. But the whole point is you should be on the right page. Yeah, okay. You should have a regular routine of writing off accounts that you know you're not going to get money with from. So and basically what that entails, and I realize some of you are gonna say, well, if I write it off, then I won't know how much they owe. Well, the point is, you know, let's say they have an account balance of $50. Well, if you go ahead and create a credit note for that for $50, that means that they're not gonna have a zero, that means they will have a zero balance. So if you are going to write it off, then I'll show you a cute way of keeping track of it. But the whole point is, especially if you're on an accrual system of accounting, if you show that they have an open balance, that means that you basically recognize that as revenue. And if they're never going to pay, you're really better off to cancel that invoice so you don't have to pay taxes on it, either sales tax or income taxes, etc. So you really want to set up, and a lot of people like to do it about this time of the year, where they look at accounts that maybe since January, March, June, have never paid their bill, and you know it's been actually sitting that way for about 9 months or a year. And so to go in then and write it off and make it a zero balance is going to save you money. Plus, it also avoids on your aging report having this category of over 150 days that owes you, you know, maybe collectively $10,000 through 8 or 10 or 50 different people. So it's a good habit. And obviously you want to talk to your accountant, you want to talk to your owner. If you're the owner, then you need to talk to the accountant. But the whole point is, let me just show you kind of how you actually would do that. So we're going to switch back to Route Manager. Oh, gotta click it myself. Okay, I thought I'd just think what I wanted. So if you do find there's an account that has an imbalance, let's see if I'm lucky enough to find one.
209.59 should have it.
Does that have an actual account balance? Oops, I hit the wrong button. 209.59?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so we'll see it. Do they have a balance? Yes, they do. Okay, great. And granted, this one's current, so it's kind of a bad example, but they owe $20. And so let's pretend like this is actually a year and a half old, etc. Well, while you're sitting here on that customer information, up here at the top, you see this little red dollar sign? It's called the finance assistant. And if you're used to making credit notes, that's great. Let me see, do something, verify the setup first. One of the things we actually have as a setup item in the system is where you can create a list of both credit notes reasons and write-off reasons. And they have exactly one. Okay, here we're gonna make two. We're gonna go O2 and put owner died. That's kind of a good reason why they may never pay their bill. Okay, died. I get it right? Almost. I can't spell or can't see that far. It's really not my spelling. Okay, so we'll add that one too. So here we are on the customer information. We can do the finance assistant. Yeah, that's not gonna help. You have to get it really close. Anyway, as you get to the finance assistant, you'll see that you have the ability to create a credit or a write-off. What's the difference? Difference is basically nothing. The only real difference is when you choose write-off, and I'll go ahead and do the write-off, it puts big words write-off up here. And basically, we're gonna get rid of what they owe. But you remember how a minute ago we put that reason in as owner died? Well, there's a different set of reasons for write-off versus credit notes. And so if you are doing write-offs, then you can have a different list. And there is a report that you can run basically anytime you want to, that would give you a list of all write-offs that you did this year, and it would show those reasons on there. So sometimes that can kind of help as you look through that and go, dang, why in the world do we have $12,000 worth of write-offs this year? And you start skimming through it and you go, oh, that's right. So-and-so owed us $3,800 and we had to write it off because we know they filed Chapter 7 and they're done, we'll never see it. So the whole point is though, you want to choose the reason, we'll just do write-off, we won't choose owner died this time. You've got the amount here, it looks kind of like an invoice, and yes, we do need some kind of a charge code to write it off to. Hopefully down here someplace is a reason of miscellaneous adjustments. I don't see any miscellaneous adjustment. Maybe it's at the bottom. Maybe I'll get lucky. I'm not lucky. Okay, I'll just use other. Okay, and so now we're gonna say we're gonna write off one at, how much money was it? 2024?
28.
2084. So I'm putting in 2084. Get a 5?
Yep.
I did. Oh, okay, let's fix that. Okay, so we have 2084. Now, do notice one thing. I put in 2084. You say, well, that's a write-off. Shouldn't it be a negative 2084? No, when you're doing credit notes and write-offs, they automatically flip the value. How do I know that? If I come up here and just push save, you'll notice that this is unposted, and of course it will need to be posted, but you'll see the adjustment and now their account balance is 0. So that makes it really easy to know, yes, I've really done a write-off and I did it properly. Obviously you could put a narrative in there. You know, we received word the customer filed Chapter 7 on October 4th, and put anything in there you would like to do. You want to save this, you want to post this, and then probably the other thing you may want to do, I'll go ahead and save it. I'm not going to post it. It'll just take a minute. I don't want to silly truck numbers. Come here, Mr. Truck Number. Huh?
I'm gonna have inventory on, so.
Ah, look at that. Okay, perfect. So the other thing you should probably do too, if you are going to write off somebody, you probably want to come over here to the credit tab. We're going to touch modify and the terms. We're going to come here, instead of saying that they're a residential, we're going to put down here that they're really, really rotten. Is there a really, really rotten account? Was there collections? There was. Collections, great. So that way, if they ever came back and wanted to sign up for service again, we'll know, well, Carol wasn't really that good of a customer when she was here last time. And you may want to, you know, adjust your flight path and make them COD or credit card. Some of you may say, we do that anyway, but the whole point is changing their credit class after you do this is probably not the world's worst idea. The cute little thing here is once I save that, you'll notice up here at the top, it says collections. It doesn't say collections.
That might not be marked.
Yeah.
With collection.
One of the things you want to do when you're setting up your credit classes under customer setup codes, customer credit classes here, is when you go into that screen, as you look at the collections credit class, where's collections right here, you'll notice that we actually have this cute little flag right here that says collections class. And what that's gonna do now, when I come back here, of course, it's gonna hate me till I go out and come back in. Think I can refresh?
Maybe.
Maybe, let's try it. Yes, it worked. Awesome. So now we have this little flagged so that anytime a person pulls up the account, you'll be able to see they were in collections or are in collections, whichever way you want to do it. And so now they have a zero account balance so that you can actually write it. Somebody asked the question, we put an account on hold, what shows on the driver's side? Okay, so that's a little different. Hold is over here. You probably see, yeah, force hold. If you put it here, what happens for the driver, when you see the list of customers that he's going to visit, on the far right-hand side, it puts a big red H. And the H is for hold service. And notice here, when we do it here, same type of thing, we're gonna get the word hold service in big red letters or white letters on red background. But on the driver's side, they see a red H. So that way they know not to deliver to the customer without calling in. It depends on your settings. You may have it blocked so they can't even do that. So anyway, is there anything else on bad debt that I wanted to cover? How to create a charge code? Okay. Yeah, if you don't have a charge code for write-offs, you want to do that. You want to be a little bit careful here as you set up and write this off. I chose the charge code of other. If the items were taxable, you may want to have a code so you get your sales tax back. The other thing you want to be careful about for write-offs particularly, do not, let's say that the original invoice for $20 was for 2 bottles of water. Typically, you don't want to do the write-off code to bottled water. Why? Because when you post that, it's gonna take away or add back into your inventory 2 bottles. And so now your inventory count's gonna be off. Now, if this happened 3 days ago and you haven't taken inventory, no worries. But if the last time they ever bought something was last June, 6 months ago, and now you put 2 bottles or you write off the 2 bottles, it is going to put it in inventory, which is bad. Then all of a sudden your inventory count's messed up. Like, where the heck did these 2 bottles come from? And you look and say, oh, okay. So you just want to be a little bit careful there. Okay, so we did the finance assistant. Okay, perfect. Now, kind of a bigger, more drastic tool, we may end up having to finish on this one. Yeah, we're not gonna be able to finish everything. That's bad. Okay, anyway, the whole point is, before I go out of here, I'm gonna jump out of script here a little bit. When you do the last month of the year, and it's important in your branch setup that you actually have your year end set properly. Most of us in the United States use December as our last month of the year. And somewhere in here, there's a place to put the last month of the year. Do you remember where it is?
Oh,
I don't remember where it is.
desktop, is it?
No, I thought it was here someplace in finance, but anyway, you want to make sure, and by default, it's in December. If you happen to be on a October year end or something else, you'll want to note that. But what happens here in the customer information under the dollar sign, you'll see here that you have month-to-date sales, year-to-date sales, previous year sales. And these numbers, including the profit, all get reset when you do the period close at the end of December. So that way, you open up in January, if you start on January 1st, your month-to-date sales are 0, your year-to-date 0, and the previous year would be 118.50 because this number would slide over there. So this and times late, year-to-date down here, all this stuff gets reset during the period close for the last month of the year. Now, one thing I do want to cover in the next 5 minutes, it's kind of pushing it, is how to archive customers. If you have customers that haven't bought anything in the last 10 or 15 years, you may want to get rid of them completely. Now, you want to be careful if you get rid of archive customers in the last year or two. If you go in and try to run a sales report, those numbers and those corresponding invoices will have been deleted. So don't archive customers for people that quit in the last 6 months or year. You typically want to go back 4 or 5 years where you normally don't run a sales detail report or other financial things. So you find the archiving process, and once again, there's a really good KB article on this, but it's found under the tools area, and it's called archive customers. And so as you can see here, there's 4 functions that you can actually do. The first one is to archive the customers, and I'll go through that in a second. But what that does is it takes it out of the main customer file. So that means you're not gonna see them when you do browse in the customer information, or if you're trying to make an invoice, you're not gonna see their names any longer. There is a customer report, so you can see everybody that has moved over there. You remember a couple minutes ago, we put that person in collections? Well, maybe they haven't bought for 5 years and now you want to archive them. Well, you'll still see that they were in collections if you look at this little report. There's also a little report that you can get on how much they bought, etc. And then we have this ultimate death sentence here. It's called delete archive customers. So once you've moved them out of there, they go into this little mini database with archive customers. And then at some point, if you just want to nuke them completely off the face of the earth, bam, go into delete archive customers and they will disappear and you will no longer have them anywhere in your system. But archiving customers, once again, it's telling you have to go single user modes. We'll go ahead and do that. And fundamentally, what it's going to come up and say here is what time range and what type of customers do you want to get rid of? So maybe you have changed their customer type from residential or commercial to dead, just so they don't show up on reports. You can say, make them a Z. So when you run customer type, you only do from A to Y, and then they never show up on reports. Well, once again, if you've done something like that, when you come into this screen, you can choose a customer type of Z. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there's another thing where in branch setup, you have to say how far back you want to go. It warns you about 100 times that you're going to kill yourself if you make any kind of mistake. So here, for example, you could then choose a various range of by customer type. You can choose account numbers. So if you want to do only certain account numbers, credit classes. And so we're going to go ahead and do this. And then what happens is, as soon as I tell it I want to kill these people, it brings it up on the screen so you can actually view all of the names here of the people. Now, granted, I'm going to be killing off thousands of them, 2,700 to be exact. But you can select it to come in here. Oh, I don't want to get rid of them. Oh, I don't want to get rid of that one. I don't, you know what? Let me just tell you who I do want you to kill. And granted, going through 2,700 names one by one may be challenging, but you can then just come in here, click, hit OK. Of course, it's going to warn you another 100 times, and then it starts to get rid of these people. As it does so, obviously, there's only 3 that we're doing right now. It's going to give us a report. And yeah, somebody just asked if I have QuickBooks and I delete it in RMA, will it delete in QuickBooks as well? No, you must go into QuickBooks and make them inactive. Is that what you do?
Mark them inactive.
Just mark them inactive. Can you actually delete them in
I
QuickBooks?
believe QuickBooks has the option, but other ones like MYOB, I don't know.
Okay, so the bottom line is if you'll have to do that there, then that will mark them here as inactive. So as you can see, all of that's happened now, and you can see the report of anybody that you've taken out of the system, and then it makes it really easy so that you're able to do that.
Okay. Excluded. May Hawaiian Pfizer Hidastana, babaling
Okay. Trying to mute them here. Let's see if we can get them muted. Okay, now they're muted. Okay, so once again, use it sparingly, but do use it. I find as I work with customers, if you've been in business 10, 15 years, 20 years, or longer, that probably at least half, sometimes as much as 2/3 of your customers haven't even bought anything in 5 years. Well, if they really don't buy anything in 5 years, it's kind of questionable whether you want to mark them as a customer. So the whole point is, yeah, don't go around killing people off that, quit 3 weeks ago, but once they're 4 or 5 years old, past when you normally run reports, then go ahead and run this function. And then if you want to see all the people that are there, we come back to archive customers again and just do the archive customers report. And then we can run that a number of different ways. But once again, you'll see that it's an abbreviated data set of what you actually remove from the system. So we'll just go ahead and run this for what's ever in there. Yeah, it looks like a regular whatever. And we'll just do this, and you can now see the, excuse me, you can see the 3 customers that we just got rid of, and you can see what information's still there. Okay, let me just see if there's any last questions. I saw something pop up here. Okay, somebody asked, what's the difference between using that and the minimum last transaction for deleting customers in the branch setup. I'm not sure what that is. Ryan, we'll get back with you on that. Ryan Curtis, you want to make a note of it? We'll do that. I'm going to wrap up now because we're really out of time. We really would like to go over. We will put an article in this attached to the video when we send it out on how to do the data integrity check. And then if you're interested, I'll also add an article on the asset tax information, which we're not going to get to either. But the asset tax is used for those of you that have to pay personal property taxes. You can generate a report to show what coolers, merchandisers, propane tanks, cages, whatever you might have as assets, what resides in each county or each jurisdiction for your service area. So we will include an article on that as well. And just to wrap up, we do appreciate you as a customer. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we're releasing V 8.1 R3. We've done a lot of crazy stuff over the last 3 months in this. So if you're already on 8.1, it's a rather minor upgrade. If you're still on 7.5, a little bit more work, but reach out to Kat and her team and support, and they'll help get you upgraded. But wish you the best of Thanksgiving, and we'll be back in December for yet another Power Hour, and that'll be the last one for 2023. So I want to thank you all. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.